In this video, we will answer this question: how to subtract mixed fractions. Let's say you are tasked to solve this. 2 and 3/4 minus 1 and 1/4. How do we subtract these mixed fractions? Let us first look at the figures for these fractions. 2 and 3/4 minus 1 and 1/4. This means we want to remove 1 and 1/4 from 2 and 3/4. So let me illustrate this to you and how this would look like. So let's copy the 2 and 3/4 and remove 1 and 1/4 from it. Now let's remove 1 and 1/4. So 1 whole and 1/4. So what do we have left? It's 1 and 2/4. So the expected answer is 1 and 2/4. Now let us subtract the fractions below. It's equal to, copy the denominator 4 and subtract the numerators 3 minus 1, that's 2, and the whole numbers 2 minus 1 is 1. So the answer is 1 and 2/4. But 2/4 can be divided by 2 so that it will be reduced to its lowest term. 2 divided by 2 is 1, and 4 divided by 2 is 2. So that means the final answer is 1 and 1/2. Now the figure above is still in 2/4. This means 2/4 and 1/2 are the same. So how did it become the same? If we remove the slices, then 2/4 becomes 1/2. That means 2/4 is the same as 1/2. Let's take another example. 3 and 2/3 minus 1 and 1/2. Now this is different because the denominators are not the same. That means we cannot just simply subtract directly the fractions. So let's look at the figures for these fractions. 3 and 2/3 minus 1 and 1/2. So that means based on the figure, they don't fit with each other and you cannot just simply remove a fraction from the other. And so the best thing to do is to make both denominators the same. So we need to multiply a number to one fraction and another number to the other fraction such that both sides will be having the same denominator. So for me, I multiply 2/3 by 2 so that the denominator becomes 6, and I multiply 3, the 1/2, so that the denominator becomes 6. I choose 6 because it's the lowest common denominator, but you can choose some other common denominators as long as the denominator becomes the same. So 3 times 2 or 2 times 3, that's 6. 2 times 2 is 4, and 1 times 3 is 3. So now it's 3 and 4/6 minus 1 and 3/6. How about the figures? Since 2/3 is multiplied by 2, that means each part of this is divided into 2. Then 1/2, since multiplied by 3, then each part of it will be divided by 3 in the figure. Now the figures are fit to solve now. We can remove 1 and 3/6 from 3 and 4/6. So this is equal to, let's copy the 3 and 4/6, and then we remove 1 and 3/6. 1 whole and 3 parts. 1, 2, 3. So how much we have left? That's 2 and 1/6. So the expected answer is 2 and 1/6. Let's solve the fractions below. So this is equal to, copy the denominator, 6, subtract the numerators, 4 minus 3, it's 1, and subtract the whole numbers, 3 minus 1, that's 2. So 2 and 1/6. Let's take another example. 3 and 1/3 minus 1 and 1/2. It looks like the same example with the previous one, but you will see the difference later. So we want these two fractions to have the same denominator. But first, let's look at the figure of these fractions. Here's a 3 and 1/3 minus 1 and 1/2. So we want to remove 1 and 1/2 from 3 and 1/3. And so let's make it the same denominator. Let's make it 6 as the least common denominator. So times 2 for 1/3 and times 3 for 1/2. So 3 times 2 or 2 times 3, that's 6. 1 times 2, it's 2. 1 times 3, it's 3. Then for the figures, since 1/3 is multiplied by 2, then each part is divided by 2. For 1/2, since it is multiplied by 3, then each part will be divided by 3. And so the figures are good to fit, and now we can subtract the figures. So this is equal to, let us copy the 3 and 2/6. And so we will remove 1 and 3/6, 1 whole and 3 parts, 1, 2, but then the third part is not there. Then we have to slice 1 whole so that we can remove 1 part to make it all 3. So let us slice into 6 this 1 whole, that is 6, and then remove 1 part. Then that makes it all 3 that has been removed. So how much is left? That's 1 and 5/6. So the expected answer is 1 and 5/6, and we will solve the fraction below. Now we cannot subtract directly the fractions, especially that the numerators is not possible to solve. That's 2 minus 3. So that means 2 needs to borrow from 1 whole. And so we will subtract 1 whole from 3. And then we will add 6 to 2. Why 6? It's because the denominator is 6. That means for every 1 whole, there are 6 parts. So now 3 minus 1 is 2. 2 plus 6 is 8. So now it's 2 and 8/6 minus 1 and 3/6. So let's solve. This is equal to, copy the denominator 6, then 8 minus 3, that's 5. 2 minus 1 is 1. So the final answer is 1 and 5/6. That's it, and thanks for watching. I hope you have learned something new from this video.